Welcome to our BAS webinar on how to build a business case for a new HR solution. My name is Nancy Pierce, and I'm the HR practice leader for BAS Business Solutions, and I'll be the host of this webinar. In our earlier webinar on HR software selection and implementation, I mentioned that it's important to have the decision makers on board with your plan to select a new HR software. Sometimes you need a business case in order to gain their support and approval. Today, I'll review the thought process of creating this business case. So, who are these decision makers? It varies per organization, but usually it's those who authorize large expenditures and or hold the vision of the future for the business. There are a number of roles in your organization that may be part of the group of decision makers, such as the owner or the executive director, or whatever level is used for the top dog, IT, finance, legal or compliance, and perhaps a union representative. Maybe it's you, and you're just looking for ways to validate your decision. What do they want? They want evidence of how this decision will help the organization. They're usually looking for strategic benefits such as cost savings and other long-term benefits like reducing turnover. An HR generalist may have tactical benefits in mind, such as getting reports out with less effort or automating requests for time off. Both perspectives are important. The finance officer may ask for the ROI or return on investment. This is an estimate of the cost benefit of how long it will take before the company sees that the tangible savings exceed the cost of the software. The VP of HR may be focused on improving the employee experience with all of the long-term gains that go with that. Needless to say, before you go much further, check to make sure that you have authorization to spend your time on this, as it can be a time-consuming venture. Selecting new software is a journey, and each journey has many steps. By following a predefined process, you'll be more successful in achieving your goal. Start with making a list of what you require in the software. What do you want it to do? Make your wish list. Analyze how the current system is working and not working for you to determine why you need this change. Find out what the overall business strategy is now and for the future so you can align to those goals. Next, start gathering information to measure the current system as a baseline. Be clear about your wants and needs. What you want may not be what the organization really needs, or some features may have a lower priority and can be moved to another phase. Determine the return on investment, or ROI. This may be the most difficult part of this process when dealing with HR software. The ROI can drive your budget. By knowing your budget, you'll not waste your time looking at solutions that far exceed your price range. Circle back to get approval before proceeding on your journey. Is this still part of the business agenda? Has anything changed? Contact vendors. Share your list of requirements and work with them to find out if their solutions meet your needs and your budget. Review the information from the vendors. You'll have learned a lot from their experience, so you may want to reevaluate and adjust your needs and budget and expectations. Set the expectations on how your implementation project will play out. Then select preferred software solutions and vendors. Finally, document all of this in a business plan and present it to the decision makers. We'll walk through each of these steps now, spending quite a bit of time on the first 2 points. Step 1, define the requirements. It's a big project to define your requirements, but it'll help you bring clarity to this journey for yourself and for the decision makers. Define your business needs. These are unique to your organization. Make sure your vision fits with the strategy of the organization and list the ways that the new HR system can help achieve the overall goals of the business. List the benefits that new HR technology can bring to your business. Analyze how the current system meets or does not meet your business needs. During this journey, include other members of your team, including other administrative and managerial staff. Not only will they greatly contribute to the project, but they will then be invested and on board when it comes time to select and implement the solution. There are many benefits to improving your HR system, such as returning turnover and retaining the talent that you have now, improving employee satisfaction, improving employee engagement. We know that engaged employees are less likely to leave, they work more efficiently and find ways to improve processes and feel that they can offer creative solutions. Their interactions with colleagues and customers are more positive, which can lead to more customer loyalty. The list goes on and on. Other benefits could be staying competitive in attracting new talent, educating employees, and tracking the status of required certifications. These can all fall into the broad agenda of future-proofing the business. Automating administrative tasks can help with cost reduction Improving customer loyalty can increase revenue, reducing turnover returns huge savings related to searching for replacements, onboarding and training, etc. Many IT departments now have an agenda to move software applications to the cloud. This reduces the time they spend on maintaining servers, verifying that restorable backups are being done, providing employee access via web applications or terminal services, ensuring that virus protection software is up to date, not to mention that it reduces the cost of replacing servers and updating system software like Windows. Most HR software is now cloud-based, as this is the latest technology. Security of your data is of paramount concern to those vendors. Perhaps your organization's charter states that the data must reside in Canada. Make sure you gather those kinds of details while you build your list of requirements. Your journey begins from where you are right now. What's your current HR system? Because everyone has a system. It may just be paper forms in a filing cabinet, maybe some Excel files, but it is a system. Perhaps you already have HR software. Regardless, you need proof that changing from the current system will be better. It's not enough to just say that you want HR software because it'll make your job easier, or you'll get reports faster, or because you had software at your last job. If no one sees the pain points and the gains that could be realized, they will not see any reason to change from the status quo. Analyze your current system. As I said before, what's working and what's not working for you now. You may want to ensure that the new solution meets or exceeds the features that you do like. You need to have a clear idea of where you are today and where you want to be in the future. Identify where there are gaps in the information. You may find that there are tasks and processes being done now that are either redundant or obsolete. For example, someone may be spending time gathering a report and generating a report that's no longer required. Someone else, like a manager, may be gathering the same data in a more efficient way. Audits to the existing data may reveal that it's out of date. While you review your current system, you should also collect information to determine costs of your current processes. This gives you a baseline, which can be used to develop the ROI and budget for a new solution, which is an important component of your business case. This will help you show what the harm is if there's no change to the status quo. It'll also help later to compare the positive results. First, let's look at how you get those costs. You may wonder how you can assign a dollar value while you're working on this. It's difficult to assign a value to some aspects of HR, like employee satisfaction, but if you can break down the work tasks and determine how long they take, you can apply a cost to them. This slide explains how to apply the hourly rates of pay to the amount of time it takes to run a report or to do a process. So in the end, we show here that it's going to be about $1,870 for this process for the year. And that's just one of many processes. If you can show that a change in systems will reduce or remove the cost, you're building an ROI. You also have a benchmark for measuring improvement. Here's some examples of defining costs related to the cost of turnover and recruiting. Calculate the lost revenue of one of those revenue generating positions like a salesperson. With this example, the salesperson has a sales quota of $1 million a year, which translates to $3,846 revenue per day based on 260 working days. You can see that we've got a potential of lost revenue of $153,000. Think about the cost of turnover, recruiting costs and time it takes to fill the position, onboarding time for the employee and administrators, training time and costs for internal and external training, time it takes to be fully functional in their new position. Not only is it important to fill an open position quickly, but it's more important to find the right person for the job and to keep them. Now let's look at some other common areas. What reports are required for external or internal purposes? How long does it take to produce those reports? How do you confirm that the data is accurate? It's very hard to compile information from separate folders in a filing cabinet, so most companies have created Excel workbooks over the years. How much time does it take to update those Excel files on a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual basis? Are they updated as part of a regular procedure or only when the reports due or requested? What reports would be useful for managerial decision-making that are not easily available now? How about a benefits report to compare to the benefit service provider invoice? Updating telephone lists or emergency contact lists and sharing them. Headcount reports, overtime analysis. The list of what should be standard reports goes on. And then what about ad hoc reports? Those can be time-consuming to put together, and there's usually more pressure to produce them quickly, which can lead to incorrect data. Has the organization been subjected to a government or accounting firm audits? We're a bit more fortunate in Canada. Your counterparts in the US have a longer list of mandatory reporting and associated audits. That's why we see an HR system in place at most US companies compared to the adoption rate in Canada. But depending on the province you operate in, we're seeing more demand for accountability. As well, there will most likely be a red flag associated with your organization after a difficult audit, so you'll need to repeat that process for the next several years and hopefully evade the fines. Uncovered payroll errors can be very costly to the employer, not to mention how they affect employee morale and respect for the organization. If you have HR software now, what's the status of that system? Has it been kept up to date with technical updates from the vendor? Do you have a help desk for support still? How is the technology? Is that database on a supported platform, or is there a risk of it being out of date soon? Technology is always advancing, so it's a moving target, and your software solutions need to keep up. Security is a high importance. More than ever before, we're seeing ransomware and other viruses affecting businesses. Security of employee data is one of the most important responsibilities that an employer has. In Europe, there are now laws in place that allow an employee to request that a previous employer delete all of their personal data once they've left, so they can ensure that a data breach at an unsecured employer site will not affect them personally. What are the costs associated with the risk of a ransomware breach? How much time does your team spend waiting for slow systems? Take a look at your business processes in regards to workflows for employee-related items. Do you have choke points? The most common one is having something stuck on someone's desk. This may literally be a piece of paper stuck on their desk, or it could be an email sitting in their inbox. Does information not flow to the HR department and get missed on Excel files? How much time is spent on those kinds of situations? This not only holds up the process, but it also takes time to figure out where the bottleneck occurred and get things moving again. What's been holding up the decision to improve your HR system in the past? You may be faced with these same roadblocks, no matter how good your business case is. Is the corporate culture in support of technological changes? Have personnel been resistant to change? Is a change in employee demographics driving a need to change your systems? Are aging senior employees leaving and opening opportunities for a younger demographic? Is there a change in the organization's needs or technology driving you to require different skills to fill new or existing positions? Do you need to take a different approach to recruiting those new employees, or is there a different set of training and reporting needs associated with this change? Attracting new talent in the electronic age in a competitive environment is quite a challenge. That change in your business could drive different training, certification, or reporting needs. As discussed in my webinar on the generations, the younger demographics and those who are computer or internet users want to be able to be self-serving, to be able to look up information when they need it, or to update their own information. If they can't search for and apply for a job online, they either won't find your job posting, or they'll not be interested in applying. It's an indicator to them of how your organization views technology. A new hire in the HR department or in management will expect to find a software application to help them with their job. There are also statistics that many millennials tend to change jobs every 3 or 4 years. It's just an opportunity for growth and development. But who's paying for that? Generation Z, the youngest group entering the workforce now, are more interested in staying with the same employer for a longer term, but they still want to grow and develop. So having a development plan in place for them allows them to see their path within your organization, so they may stay longer, thus reducing your turnover costs. So talent management tools are valuable. Is one of your goals to streamline your processes? This may include integrating existing systems with each other or with the new software solution. For example, you may already have an applicant tracking system that's working well for your organization. Perhaps your payroll software is part of your finance software and you don't want to change. Maybe it's with an outsourced payroll service provider and you're not interested in bringing it in-house. Do you already have a fully functional time collection system? Do your homework to find out if those existing systems will be able to integrate with other software. Will they accept an import file? Are they open API and accept a direct connection? Is the way they're set up the way you'd like the rest of your new systems to work? Are you happy to have those systems define the configuration for the whole HCM package once you add on to it? For example, does your time collection system automatically assign an employee ID? Does your ATS have a list of job codes now? You may need to have software written that will translate the new application to old by using mapping tables. Okay, we've given you some good fodder for your research tasks and measurement of the status quo, so you have a baseline. During this process, you would have added to your initial thoughts of what you want in HR software after looking at the gaps or the must-haves in your current system. Hopefully, you'll have worked with your colleagues and considered the overall strategic goals. I'm sure you'll come up with lots of other things linked to better analytics, streamlining of processes, and eliminating wasteful practices as you go through this process. So let's move on to the next steps. Step 3, needs versus wants. Now is the time to look at that long wish list and sort it into needs versus wants, or prioritizing. For example, having an ATS for recruiting may be on your list, but if your organization generally only hires a few people a year and there are no plans for extensive growth in the near future, is that really the best way to spend your money and your time? You may have thought that you needed that, but it may just turn out to be a want. Prioritize the list. Put your list into Excel, and if it's long, or if you've gathered lists from other members, put them into separate tabs. For example, IT, learning, recruiting, payroll, time and attendance, etc. Determine a rating scale of importance. For example, 5 is mandatory, 1 is nice to have, or simply label each as mandatory or nice to have. That list will come in handy going forward. You can provide it to vendors. You can use it to enter how each product meets those needs as you assess the solutions. Vendor demonstrations will highlight their strengths and will show bright, shiny, cool stuff, but if it's not what you need, then it's only a want. Your list keeps you grounded in reality, but getting some of that extra cool stuff is nice too. If your organization follows the formal process of issuing an RFP, or request for proposal, or an RFI, request for information, this Excel file is the beginning of that document. Next step is to take the costs that you've compiled in the measurement stage and look at your wish list and start to develop the ROI. ROI is return on investment. The goal is to create a figure that will represent the gains realized by implementing a solution. You can then weigh the costs of the solution to determine if the gains exceed the costs. Your calculations from the previous steps come into play now. Include costs of penalties for non-compliance and costs to use outside services. Remember to consider the cost of doing nothing. Add in the cost savings of removing existing or external systems. Don't forget to include the fact that HR is one of the supporting factors to the revenue-generating components of your business or the client-facing aspects if you're a not-for-profit organization. HR, finance, IT, marketing, and maintenance functions do not generally bring in money. They are large expenditures that support sales, manufacturing, customer service, whatever the drivers are that bring the money in. All of those departments feed management, and management's usually those decision makers. Ideally, how a change of HR systems, identify how a change of HR systems can positively affect those other departments. You should be prepared to outline the value of the HR department that can add to the organization if it were not so heavily burdened by the repetitive, labor-intensive, and inefficient administrative tasks that could be removed or reduced by an improved HR system. We already talked, for example, about reducing dependence on hardware and IT hours. Some costs are easy to identify. Those are hard costs. You can physically count the value. Moving to an employee portal for access to pay advices saves a lot in hard costs, for example, the cost of paper and ink to print them and the envelopes that go in and the cost to mail them. Soft costs related to that type of change would include the time it takes to print, sort, fold, stuff, stick, and send them. Employee satisfaction with having an easier access to their forms, security and not having this confidential information laying around or misdirected. These may not be easy to measure, but they can definitely have a high value to the organization. The benefits of a change can be categorized as tactical and strategic. An example of tactical benefits are those that make you more effective in day-to-day activities, for example, automating recruiting. Make sure you show ways that these benefit the whole organization, not just you in the HR department. Strategic value strengthens the long and short-term health of your organization, for example, reducing hiring costs. So determining a budget. As a vendor, we often hear that there's no predefined budget when we speak to someone for the first time, but everyone has a budget. They may just not know it yet. The ROI will help to drive the budget. If you have not done the work up to now and you ask your finance department for a budget, you may hear that there's no extra money this year, so no budget, so no new software, or there's a freeze on expenses. Or they may look at what's left in the current company budget and give you that number. By coming prepared with the ROI, you can show that the what the potential savings would be to the organization. That savings alone may be the budget. Discuss the cost of not changing. The goal is not necessarily to replace a salary by terminating an employee who's manually managing the task now. Sometimes you have highly qualified HR and managerial staff that are stuck behind a desk doing those tasks. And let's not even talk about employee satisfaction here. They can be far more valuable to the company with improved tools to do their job. Now, pause and return to get approval to continue on your next steps. Is the organization still on board with this project? Situations change. Companies get sold or they acquire other companies. Personnel and decision makers change. Strategies change. Financial climates change. If this project does get put on hold at this stage, you still have a great investment in documenting the current processes, wants, and needs of the organization, which can be used later. Researching vendors. You want to contact vendors to start looking for the right solution options, and there's lots of ways to do this. Contact your current business partners like BAS. Contact the vendor of your current HR software. They may have other options. Publish a request for proposal on Merx or other platforms. Complete a survey with a company that searches for software for you. Contact the vendor or business partner that you used in a previous job. Ask your HR colleagues. Ask your friends. Google it. But first, define your preferences. For example, are you looking for a vendor that's based in Canada or has a local office? There are so many options for software now, and project implementations are commonly done via web connections, so keep your options as broad as possible. Have a short list of must-haves ready so you can do some preliminary filtering. Spend time speaking with them so they clearly understand your requirements. Take the time to attend a presentation and provide them with an outline of what you want to see in detail. Remember, they will accentuate the positives of their solution. This is your time to get under the hood and ask to see how your must-haves work. Update your Excel list with a new column per product so you can grade their features and keep an eye on your priority items and not get swayed by the pretty things. Ask them for help in developing the ROI for their particular solution. Ask them how they deploy their software solutions. What does the implementation project look like? How much time will it take, and how much will your team be involved? What tasks do they do, and what do your team do? Remember, these can be large projects, so break it down into phases. We all have a full plate, and change takes time and patience. Achieving a series of wins is better than failure to launch. Of course, it's not just the requirements list that needs to be considered. Cost of the software is the other side of the ROI. There'll be two sets of costs, long-term and short-term costs. Be sure that the budget adapts to this. Software costs. Are you buying the software? This would be a one-time outlay to purchase. This is often related to software that's physically installed on your server, which is called an on-premise solution. There's often an annual fee for maintenance. Be clear on what this covers and make sure that there's budget up for this going forward. Understand what the upgrade process looks like. How often are there enhancements to the software, and how are they deployed? Is there an associated cost for software or services? Are you leasing the software? Most cloud solutions are sold as software as a service, or SaaS, which is an annual fee each year. Or some may bill monthly, semi-annually, or every 3 years. Be clear on what those terms are. Ask about cancellation terms. What's included in that cost? Support issues? Software updates? Do they guarantee access and upload speeds? Then implementation costs are a fee for services to help you implement the software during the project. Basic solutions may just be plug and play, making it easy to download or access for a trial period and providing tips on how to use it. If you're looking for automations and a system designed for your organization, those basic solutions may not meet your needs. Robust software requires a good consultant who knows how to ask the right questions to design the system to meet your needs. This would be a one-time cost at the beginning of the project. Integration costs may be required if you've chosen to keep some existing software and you want to automate the sharing of common data. Does the vendor provide that integration? Is there a fee for integration and software services? Does an upgrade to either product potentially affect the integration? Then extensibility. How far can you extend or stretch the functionality of the new software? We talked about phases. Does the one solution meet all of your needs, or will you be purchasing other solutions to fill the gap when the time comes? What's the cost if you add more employees or extend your business to add more companies, for example? At this point, you'll have learned a lot from those vendors that you spend time with. After all, they do this every day, so take advantage of their expertise. You may want to add to your wish list or reorganize your priorities. You may have discovered more ROI and have good fodder to go back and ask for more budget. Review your Excel list to weigh how each vendor and product meets your needs. Update your business case document in preparation for the big presentation to ask for a commitment to the solution of your choice. Tell a story of what's wrong today. How do you know this? The costs and consequences of not changing, the expected results of the new system. Appeal to the logic or left brain, but also the emotion of the right brain, which usually visualizes and has holistic thinking. This is where most of the decision making actually happens. Anticipate what questions the decision makers will ask you. What objections may they have on behalf of the organization? Define your expectations for the project and include them in the business plan. Deliverables. What exactly will the vendors provide in the way of documents and services during the project? Resources required, time allocation, rollout to employees, training for employees, expected results so you can verify success. Try to get another team member involved so you can delegate responsibilities and share the work. Plan how you'll keep the organization up to date with news on how the project's going and what they can expect, especially the key stakeholders who have backed you to begin with. Plan to assign an internal project manager for the implementation project. As mentioned before, this should be a phased approach. So how could that look? Usually you start with the core solution to replace your filing cabinet and Excel worksheets or the demographics and job information in your existing system. Take the time to verify that it's correct if it was imported and learn to work with the system to keep the data current. Wean your organization off of the old systems and processes. Time off management may be next to manage vacations and sick plans, etc. Benefits management is popular. Employee and manager self-service to share the information. This seems to be the standard steps to deploy the common components. Prioritize the next big phases, such as LMS for Learning Management System, ATS, Applicant Tracking System for recruiting, performance reviews, time and attendance, payroll. Statistically, only 30% of IT projects are successful, which is on time, on budget, with expected results. 50% are challenged with over budget or time or missed expected results, and 19% just failed. This kind of preparation can aid in success. Finally, you reached your goal. You're ready to meet with the decision makers to present your business plan. Be prepared to hand out your report and plan. Perhaps put key points into a PowerPoint presentation. Be prepared to answer their questions, but don't hesitate to return to the selected vendors to ask if clarification is needed. Remember, they're there to help you achieve your goal of selecting the right HR solution for your organization. Thank you for taking the time today to attend this webinar. Please feel free to contact myself or your BAS account manager if you have any questions. Thank you.